So first of all, I think as an industry, the Indian IT industry can do a much better job of educating policymakers about the benefits that we've brought to their industry. We've made these companies much more profitable. They've been able to compete globally. We've helped them, bring down cost, bring down time to market, and improve quality. These are very important attributes, and that's why these companies actually enjoy an edge over the European and Asian counterparts. There will be proliferation of outsourcing in other places also. This has now become such a global phenomenon that I think you'll have pockets emerge in different parts of the country, which will focus, of the world, which will focus on different capabilities. But India still has a huge edge, and I think their biggest edge is this demographic dividend. There are 570 million people under the age of 25. This is an industry that employs and needs smart young people, and India has that in abundance. It needs a commitment to education, which India has in plenty. So I think Indian outsourcing industry will continue to grow. The companies need to continue to evolve their strategies, and I'm sure they will.
One thing I would add is it's also interesting how many Indian companies have begun to acquire and develop a presence now in the United States, so that for those clients who might be anxious about having an American presence or want to have some American presence as well. So in many ways, what Syntel has already offered for so many years, both a US presence and an India presence, I think Indian outsourcing companies are learning from models like yours and learning how to replicate that in their own ways.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Atul Singh, founder and editor-in-chief of Fair Observer. The question is, you mentioned 3 trends that you're excited about: cloud, social media, and mobile. And what do you think are the opportunities and challenges for Syntel due to these 3 trends that excite you?
So your question, if I understand it, is there are 3 broad areas of opportunities, and what are our challenges?
Yeah, I mean, there are 3 broad trends that excite you, and
right.
What do you see as the opportunities and challenges in those 3
due
to those 3 trends
that this creates for Syntel?
Yeah.
So I think I'll go kind of one at a time. Cloud clearly provides this massive scalable capability at a very economic cost, and I believe that we've created some offerings that enables companies to leverage the potential of the cloud and its scalability and dramatically reduce its cost structure and help them actually migrate from their current environment to the cloud. So we think that's very exciting, and we think we're actually at the leading edge on that one. Mobility is something that's every business is impacted by, because more and more computing is happening on these devices. We've invested in mobility labs and continue to take solutions to all our customers, and the same with social media. The biggest challenge will be you have to fight for business with other players who are in the same industry, but that's something we do all the time anyway.
So some of our colleagues at Harvard Business School who've studied the social media space find that established companies, the kinds of companies that have historically been your clients, just don't get it. They just fundamentally don't get what the social media space is. What's your experience as you think about your clients like GM and other big companies that are trying to enter the space? Do you feel they've begun to get it? Are they actually getting it? Where are they?
I think they're waking up to the possibility, and it all boils down to them understanding who is their customer and how can they serve their needs better. And the companies who are focused on that quickly realize that they have to move to mobile platforms and they have to leverage the power of social media.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, it was a pleasure hearing both of you. I must say, I wanted to know what motivated you to set up your foundation specifically focused on educating underprivileged children.
Again, these are both things I feel very passionate about, and we're fortunate to have wealth in excess of what we need, and we thought that the best way we can impact the world is by utilizing this to make a better world.
Let me ask a follow-up question, Bharat, on that, which is we have at Harvard Business School a very large social enterprise group. And one of the things that they have become very focused on is social impact investing. Because what they've discovered is that there's a new generation of philanthropists who very much are people like you. They're entrepreneurs who developed and created value by building their own companies. And they're no longer interested in just giving money as charity. They're cause-oriented as you are, and in some ways inspired by people like Bill Gates, want to move the needle. You know, if they invest in something, they say, I want to move the needle. What does moving the needle mean to you? What do you think as you think about allocating? How do you track whether your foundation is actually making a difference or simply supporting a cause?
So in each case, before we make an allocation, we'll think about what impact do we want to have, and we'll arrive at some form of measurement. And then we hold the party accountable to deliver on those measurements.
So can you give us an example?
So, without naming institutions, we've made this contribution to two educational institutions. In one case, it was to support students coming from the IIS in India. They would get a full scholarship, and what we wanted out of that was the ability for the IIS ultimately to attract a much higher caliber leader. Right now, I'd say we're probably struggling on that one aspect. And we're going to have a conversation with this institution to talk about how do we make sure that we're achieving this objective, because that was really our original objective.
That's a great example. Maybe we take one last question.
Okay. This question is for both of you, Dean Noria and Bharat Desai. I'm Devdutt Shenoy, and the question is about life. When you are reflecting back on your life, you always realize that it's not serendipity, it's not a chance, but it's the choices that we make. So looking at your achievements and your life in general, can you comment if there was a way to go back in time and make different choices? Was there any road less traveled that you could have taken? Or were there any paradoxical situations and you selected something which you feel very proud about? Thank you very much.
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So the question is that we all look back on life and think about having made choices that were the right choices, but life is also full of serendipity. And there may have been roads where you decided to take a left where, in retrospect, you might think I should have taken a right. And can you think of any moment like that from your life?
No, whenever I'm encountered with a fork, I try and make the best decision at that time. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I've sort of disciplined myself never to go back to that. I just move ahead, because I've always found that to be unproductive.
So my experience has been that in many cases in life, at least, I took forks not because I made a choice, but they seemed to be the only fork to take. So I'll give you a simple example. When I was applying to come to school in the United States, I had a choice of applying to MBA programs because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, or apply to PhD programs. The only reason why I applied to PhD programs is because PhD programs gave scholarships. And I couldn't afford to come to the United States if I didn't get a scholarship. So frankly, had I been able to make the choice, I would have chosen to go to an MBA program. But I went to a PhD program because I couldn't make the choice. I couldn't afford to come to the United States, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I was young, and my feeling was, 4 years, maybe it's just an advanced MBA. That's how I rationalized to myself what a PhD program would be. Little did I know that that road, when it opened up, created this possibility of my becoming an academic. I fell in love with the idea of being a professor. If someone had told me when I was graduating from IIT Bombay that someday I'd be a professor, I would have died laughing, and anybody else who knew me would have even laughed harder. But here I am, 30 years later, Dean of Harvard Business School. Who would have thought? So there are times when I think that even traveling the road that you didn't choose, but making the most of it and being open to the surprise that it might have on it, is as important as figuring out which side of the road you want to travel on. So at least that would be my lesson. I think we're now at time. So I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great day, and thank you, Mr. Desai.
Thank you very much. If I may,
a last word.
Just a last word, if I may. Nitin, every IITian and every Indian is extremely proud of your accomplishment. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. And to be Dean of the Business School, which is the ultimate meritocracy, is something we're all really proud of.
Thank you.